Carrying on with mechs on the channel, we're going to be covering DIO today. DIO definitely plays a lot differently than Dash Inventor Extraordinaire, mainly because of her deck manipulation off the top using items. So we are able to successfully play a card off the top of the deck. It's almost like she gets an extra card draw every single turn. It's a very powerful effect, and it's why she starts with less than 20 health. The problem with this is she's inherently a little bit more variance prone because you need to play enough items that you're always seeing them on the top of your deck every single turn. That way you're maximizing her hero power. But the other problem too is that you run the risk of drawing them all in your hand. While I think she has a very powerful ceiling, I think you'll have some unfortunate variance mishaps when you play her. Ideal scenario is that a lot of her items are good enough that you can just play them from hand and it's not too big of a deterrent. So when we jump into our list today, we'll start with the equipment suite. It's probably the most boring thing you have ever seen. It's just all blade beckoners. I think that you don't stack enough counters in this format compared to something like a classic constructed to get enough counters on the symbiosis shot that you need something like Achilles accelerator. And so the idea here is that I don't really think we're all that often going to be needing the extra action point, and that extra action point can also come from the items, but without cards like Cerebellum Processor or multiple counters on the symbiosis shot, Spark of Genius, I just don't really see the need for it. That could be incorrect, but you do have 18 health, so having an extra potential 6 health or 7 if you end up blocking with a chest on your equipment suite, I think is probably what the deck is going to end up needing. And the deck itself is very straightforward. You're playing a high boost ratio of cards, very simple item package. It's just boom grenades. It's like what the deck does best, but this is really cool that you do get access to these in this format. This is very simple. You're just going to crank it off the top, get an extra action point if you think your attack is going to connect. Like let's say you send a 4 attack, they block for 3. There's very few defense reactions or reaction speed prevention effects. You will run into them sometimes, so don't pretend like they are not there at all, but it's much more likely that you're safe to pull the trigger on this from the top of the deck compared to something like CC. And then we have backup protocol red, very simple. Just crank this in, use a blue, go get your best red attack, send it at your opponent on curve. Or you can set it in Arsenal if you really want to. The rest of the deck is just plain all boost, very simple stuff. You're just banishing the top of your deck, and that's basically all the deck is designed to do. When we go into the inventory, we're trying to solve a little bit of the fatigue problem here. We do have AB1 if you would like to run it against something like a Rune Blade or a Wizard. I think the deck is fast enough that you don't need something like AB3 into like Kano or Icelander. I think you'll probably just run them over by the time you would be dead anyway. We have Infused Titanium as a popper. We have Hadron Collider as a item that you can rip off the top that plays into fatigue decks. You can just have this come in, grab the counter off of it, arsenal a card, sculpt that big powerful 5-card hand with your items in play, maybe a boom grenade as well. And that way you can really push over your opponent's defenses. To help with that, we also have Payload. Dominate is always good. That way you can push your on hits like your boom grenades into fatigue decks. And then we have Big Shot and Overblast. It's kind of weird to have this in the sideboard, but with mech, you always kind of have to have it as a liability if you pair into some decks like Warrior or Guardian. Sometimes it will hedge and try to fatigue you out, just blocking every single thing that you're sending, because boost ultimately just rips too many cards off the top of your deck, right? So it's very simple to just block out. Dio, never let her hit any of the boom grenades, and then eventually she runs out of cards in half the time it would normally take you. So we have to hedge a little bit with some kind of a game plan on the sideboard. It's possible that this needs to get tweaked, and it's possible it's not good enough to stop a dedicated fatigue deck, but I at least thought it was worth trying out for the video. So we'll jump into a game, that way you can see how I would play this deck. Paired against Benji, I think I forgot to confirm with this person that they're playing Project Blue, because I see Shuko. However, I sat in this lobby for 10 minutes, so we're just going to roll with it. We'll see how this game goes. We're going second, which is pretty terrible. Benji gets a huge equity going first, just getting unblockable damage through. I'm not going to use our equipment just yet because there are much better on hits that this deck can do than Growl. Our hand going second's pretty good. We have a good clean curve. If we find a boom grenade off the top, we can play it perfectly on curve because we'll have 1 extra resource compared to our 2 1 costs. Although our opponents are now attacking us with a weapon, we're just going to go ahead and probably block with the Outpace. It's just the worst value card in our hand. There's probably some value considering my opponent probably wants to block with the Pouncing Paws pretty quickly, but everything else here doesn't block or has Blade Break like Shuko. That's a lot more important. So I say that we just hold on to it. And this way we're going to draw, we know we're going to draw into another 1 cost, so our curve doesn't change, which is pretty good. Now we have to think about if we want to block this or not. It's kind of weird. Preserving as much health as possible is really good, but the only thing is that our hand's actually like really gas, so I'm going to take a potentially very dumb risk and just take 1 here. Okay, apparently it was a very stupid mistake because we ended up taking 4. Although I think if I blocked with the full card, I'm not sure if my opponent still would have like made that line. No clue, right? Maybe they would have. So we end up taking 6 damage on turn 0. Pretty bad. My opponent does have no arsenal though, and we know our hand is all gas. We draw a boom grenade, we can present lethal pretty quickly. So our hope is that we see a boom grenade off the top here. So far, no luck. We will go ahead and bait a block here with the leg piece. We have the ability to dig 3 cards deep. So statistically, we should be hitting an item, hopefully. But of course, this deck can be very variance prone just because you are very reliant on your deck order. So there's really no guarantee when you play with this deck. Some games you'll have a boom grenade on top once per turn, every single turn, and then some games you play, you'll just draw like 4 items in a hand and just lose. We'll go ahead and send the zipper hit. We're really fishing for that boom grenade. We see the red one on the top, so I smell blood in the water. So now our 4-card hand presents what? 4, 9, 13, 17 damage. My math is correct. It'll actually be 19 damage because of the pistol shot. Pretty insane. So that's pretty sweet for us. This is when this deck works very, very well. So looks like we're drawing the good half of the deck. We'll crank it in, get our action point. It doesn't really matter. We could have just played it off the top and not use the action point. Stuff like that's only relevant when you have multiple symbiosis counters, like, and you want to dump multiple in a single turn. My opponent goes down to 7, so I think we're cooking pretty hard right now. Now the real question is, do we want to boost the 0 to 60? So the only reason why I say that is we know we have a soup up on top. The soup up is overall a really good card. The only thing though is that we don't have an item on the table. So there's actually a chance that this doesn't end up having go again and we can't block for 4 with it. So even though I kind of want to save the 0 to 60 in arsenal, so that way we can have another turn where we potentially have 5 cards in hand. The reason why we want that is we want more boosts because we want to trigger our DIO once per turn effect. So if I use all my boost cards, even though I'll get to churn through a lot of my deck on this turn, I may miss the opportunity to dig 1 card deeper on the next turn, right, and trigger and find a boom grenade. So I always do kind of want to leave a boost card around if I can. But this card is kind of a liability right now. I don't actually know if we'll be able to either play or effectively use it either on offense or defense. So I think I just want to get rid of it. We see a blue on top now. Not sure how relevant that will be. There's a chance we end up drawing into multiple blues here. It's a weird deck because you have so much information about the top of your deck that it really impacts your lines. Like me knowing that soup up is on top changes how I use my cards. So it's a very cool thing about this deck. It will take some experience, some getting used to. You're gonna have to kind of know a lot about how your deck functions because there will be some things that feel like difficult decisions you'll have to make. You're not exactly sure how to navigate them. We get a full card for the Be Like Water. My opponent's down to a 2-card hand. We're on 12. They're at 3. They have 3 armor. Like, we have them completely beat. I mean, we're presenting 7 armor here. So kind of crazy that I think this person submitted an actual blitz list and it seems like we're doing perfectly fine. But like I said, we presented an insane amount of damage on turn 2. So just hitting the red boom grenade, if you get this to hit in a low power format, like, you will just win the game. Okay, so this is a really not good hand, but we can make it work, right? So what we can do here is if we want to say no blocks and just force our opponent to block out for the rest of the game, we can go pitch our blue boom grenade, play our boom grenade off the top, use our old knocker. So we go back to 3 resources and we can go outpace blue, throttle blue, 0 to 50 blue. It's really a pretty awful exchange of cards, but you know, it may be what we need to do since our opponent's at 3. So we do need to keep in mind our opponent does have mask. I don't really know if they're gonna be able to trigger it because we can stick 1 armor piece in front of potentially the second Kodachi and just turn it off. So I feel like my opponent, even though I'm about to just play like basically a all blue hand, like terrible rate here, I still think they lose. The outpace will demand a full card from them. The throttle will demand a card plus Shuko probably. 0 to 50 will also demand a card. They'll go down to a 1-card hand, and I don't think they're going to be able to win the game from there. They're going to go ahead and send the Kodachi. Kind of a tricky call. I'm just not going to block this though, because the first card didn't hit because it came in for 0. So they've only hit twice now with the 2 Kodachis. I might as well block something for 2 with the gauntlets and then actually get good value. This ends up coming in for 5. That's pretty crazy, actually. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to make use of our kind of redundant card. We're going to take 1 less card from them, but I'm not really going to sweat it too much. Sorry, we don't want to crank this. We don't need the extra action point. We only have 1 symbiosis shot counter, so we might as well hold the boom grenade for 2 turns and force our opponent to block out whatever we send for 2 turns. My opponent's at 3. So any damage that connects drops him down to 2, and the boom grenade, even at blue, will deal the last 2 damage to them. So this is always presenting lethal. So the next 2 turns, any damage I present on a physical card is going to require a complete full block. Unfortunately, the weapon will not trigger the boom grenade. So this feels a little bit worse. Because my opponent can just block this or choose to not block it, go down to 1, and now this blue boom grenade is like a little less impactful, but I still think it's fine. Like, this is still a line I want to take. We're getting 2 cards from them. It's Benji. Like, there's no 2-card hand that really works. My opponent is gonna take the 2. Okay, they somersault this. Totally fine with that. So we'll get a whole other card here. We have Soup Up. That's really good for us. We have the option to block for 4, or we can arsenal this, and then not next turn, but the turn afterwards, the blue boom grenade will crack. It'll lose the last steam counter, and then we'll be able to send a 0 for 4 at the start of the turn. So